We are going to start the new set of slides, lecture 5. So these are the topics, the main topics that we are going to talk. So here, so mainly we talk about conditions, how conditional statements are used in C language. So basically, if, else, if, those type of expressions, how can we use them, where to be used, and then what are the different mechanisms that we have provided in C are all covered in this session. Right. So before going to the main control structures, so let's talk about expressions and statements and blocks, basically. Right. So sometimes these are used in sometimes the real meaning of these things would be confusing if you don't know that, right? So let's try to understand these concepts. First, expression. So usually in the literal meaning of expression would be like someone's expression, right? So that's not what we mean in the language, in C language. So let's see what it actually means. In C language, an expression is any legal combination of one or more explicit values, constants, variables, right? Explicit values means like values, just pure values, or constants, variables, operators, and functions that represent a value, right? So C expression basically means a value. The representing value or the resulting value is usually one of various primitive types of derived data types, right? So C expression, if I say there's an expression, so there is a value representing that expression, right? It would be like representing value or resulting value, right? So the expression could be any of these combinations. So one or more explicit values, right? If I say just a value, pure value, so this is an expression, right? This is an expression. And then constants, right? And then variables. So for example, if I say like, if I have a variable A, right? Like this. So that is an expression. And then operators, right? And functions that represent a value, right? So for example, like here, if I take this expression, it's a combination of a variable and a value and an operator, right? This is an expression, right? If I just take just one value, again, it is an expression. If I take this the variable, the third one, again, it is an expression, just a variable. and then assigning a value to a variable. Again, it is an expression, right? In all these expressions, so there is a value representing value. For example, if we let's say variable x, right? Variable x has a value. Suppose let's say a variable x has 10. So then this expression's value would be, what is the value of this expression? So what is the value of this? Yeah, exactly. The value of this expression is 50. Right? Thank you. And then so this is just explicit value, right? It is value, of course, it is 42, right? So let's say in this variable, so third one, the variable a. Suppose that variable a has a value 5, right? So then this expression has the value 5. So then in this expression, a is assigned with 12. Can you guess the value of this expression? Can you guess the value of this expression? So until you are guessing, so let me open the code blocks. Right, so we can okay, Kasun, so you say it is false. Why do you say it's false? So let's see. So any other guesses? Kasun, so why do you say it is false? Why do you think it is false? The value is false. So let's say so let's see. Okay. So let me print an integer value. So what is the value that I'm going to print? So let's say we declare a variable, right? Declare a variable. I'm assigning a value to a variable, right? I'm assigning a value to variable, right? So this expression's value is going to be printed, right? So let's say so what is the result? 12. Can you see that? Can you see that? So what I'm doing here is like usually what we are familiar here is like usually we do something like this. Usually like this is what we are familiar, right? So instead of doing that, I am going to print the expression, right? Assignment expression, right? This expression like the combination of assignment operator with variable and a value. The representing value of this one is going to be printed, right? So in this case, actually in an assignment, right? On the slide, I have given that, right? Down here, an assignment expression has the value of the left operand after the assignment, right? If it is an assignment expression, so the value of this expression is considered as the value of left operand, value of A after assignment, after the assignment, right? So we assign 12 to A, and then after that, value of A is 12. So that's the value of this expression. Is it clear? Do you have any questions? So if you want to find the value of any expression, put any expression here, right? And print it, right? Sometimes you may have to change the data type based on the expression. So however, it would be like in this case, it would be an integer. So is it clear? Do you have questions regarding this? Regarding the expressions? Right. Okay, so then I will ask questions let's say I have a variable A. If I say this, what would be the value of this expression? So this is an expression. So we have a variable here, and then we have an operator, and then explicit value. So one say it is 12, right? Like we have two answers now, like someone say it is 12 and someone say it is true. Yeah, someone say it is 1. So yeah, true, right? 1, right? Like 1, 2, 12, right? So because so this is, what is this operator? Like we check the equality, right? So then the value representing this expression, right, should be 0 or 1. 0 or 1. It has to be 0 or 1 because it checks whether A equals 12. If it is true, like if they are equal, so then it would be 1, otherwise it will be 0. So actually I cannot say, right, like just by looking at this expression, I cannot say its value because I don't know the value of A in this context. Right? In our program, yes, now A has 12 and so on. But in this context, right? මේක දිහා විතරක් බලලා අපිට කියන්න බෑ. It is based on the value of A. Right? So let's say A has a value like before this expression, right? Before this expression, suppose somewhere in the program, so if we have int A, the variable declaration, and then assignment, right? Let's say 10. Now, in this case, they are not it has to be 0 because they are not equal, right? Yes, exactly, right. So instead of assigning 10, if we have assigned 12, so now obviously it has to be 1, right? So expression, so basically there are different types of expression. For example, even this is an expression, right? Even this is an expression, right? And then if we just say a variable, this is an expression, right? Like expression has a value, right? It is representing a value. So that's what we have. Like, so one or more explicit any legal combination, right? So there are some illegal combinations, right? ඒක ලියන්න C වල ලියන්න බැරි විදි තියෙනවනේ. අනේ illegal combination එකක් නෙවෙයි, legal combination of one or more explicit values, constants, variables, operators, and functions that represent a value. Basically, expression has a value. A value එකක් ඒ expression එකේ මොකක් හරි වෙලා value එකක් දෙනවා. ඒ expression එක දිහා බැලුවම මෙතන value එකක් තමයි අන්තිමට තියෙන්නේ. That kind of combination is called an expression, right? So now let's go to a statement, right? Let's say an expression such as this assignment or this operation, increment, or this is an expression, printf, the function code. This is a function code we call, right? So all these are expressions, right? An expression such as this becomes a statement when it is followed by a semicolon, right? So now, expression does not have a semicolon. No need to have a semicolon, right? But expression followed by a semicolon is called a statement, right? So for example, this is a statement. This is a statement. And this is a statement. So C program is made of, or C program is a collection of statements. If we take our program here, right? So we have a statement. We have another statement, and we have three statements. Right? Is it clear? The difference between an expression and a statement. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Right. So if you have questions, you can ask. And the most important and most strange thing that I can give you is semicolon itself is considered as a value statement, which does nothing, right? So in your program, you can just put, let's say, so if you put a semicolon like this, so this is a statement. This is a statement, no errors, right? Nothing, right? But it does nothing. මොකුත් කරන්නේ make a statement. Right? There's no any expressions here. But or I could say like empty expression. This is an empty statement. Nothing would be done, but it is still a statement. This is a statement. M statement එක සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ලියන්න අවශ්‍ය. ඒක ලියන්න ඕනේ නැහැ ඉතින් මේ වගේ එකක්. තේරුමක් නැහැ. හැබැයි පුළුවන්. It is possible. Right. So now blocks, right? See blocks. Block is a pair of braces, right? Block is surrounded by a pair of braces. So these are called braces, right? Like in, so there are different types of, right? Like, so in programming, we use different types of brackets, right? So these are called, what is the name of these? Anyone? Someone says set. No. I mean, in mathematical years, it's a set, but in like I'm asking the name. I'm asking the name of these. Yes, exactly. Parentheses. So these are parentheses. Parentheses. Right. And then, so these are called brackets. Or sometimes you call the square brackets, right? But those are called brackets basically, right? And the last one called braces. So use these words, use these terms, right? Use these terms. I'm not sure about their spellings. There could be some spelling mistakes. But anyway, parentheses, brackets, braces. Sometimes you call them curly brackets, and then square brackets, and then round brackets, right? So, however, these are the like general terms. And angle brackets, yeah. So, right. But these are the terms basically, right? Sometimes like curly brackets for these one, it's fine, but know the real word, right? Real term. A pair of braces. Braces. So the blocks are surrounded by the braces. A pair of braces. This is the opening brace and this is the closing brace. A pair of braces are used to group statements together into a compound statement for a block. So block is a compound statement, or we just call them block. Right? We group a set of statements. It doesn't have to be multiple statements. Sometimes, like if it is just a single statement, so that's also fine. In this case, like, so this is a block. This is a block, right? It could be just one statement. That's also fine. Or it could be multiple statements, right? So even there's nothing, that's also fine, right? So this is a block. It's an empty block in this case. Right? So blocks are used in mainly in function. So this is the main function. So main function. So we have multiple statements here. So those are grouped as a function block. Right? So this is a function. Right? So we will learn other uses of blocks, right? Up to now we know only this one, but so we are using blocks in when we are using so if else statements, if else if, right? So else if. And then when we are using loops, like, for example, for loops or while loops, right? We will use blocks related to this loop. Even in for loop, so we use blocks. Even in if else conditions, right? Like if, and then we can have a block, multiple statements. Or it could be just a single statement. It is also fine, right? Single or multiple statements, right? So we are going to learn them today, right? So blocks. So now I think you have an idea what expression is, and then what a statement is, and then what a block is. So any questions? If you have any questions regarding these very, very basic concepts. Right. So if you don't have any questions, we can go to our control structures discussion. Right. Time to time, I'll check about these things, right? Like we will use these things. I'll tell you okay, here we use an expression and then there is a block. Those things would be used very frequently in our next few sessions. Right. Control structures. See control structures. So C programs which were discussed up to now have a regular flow. What does that mean? Like regular flow. That means from first line to the last line of the program. So they are executed one after the other, right? In an order. So if you take this one, so this program, so after compilation, so these are handled before the compilation. So after compilation, so then these programs are executed. So this part, let's say the line 6 would be executed first, right? This is number 1, right? Int A, right? So that statement would be executed. A variable would be created. Variable declaration, right? So then this expression, this statement would be executed. So they are, so printf function is called with this string, right? And then, so this expression's value would be displayed on the screen, right? So this is the one. Right? So here, first, the value of this right operand is assigned to the left operand, the variable, and then that would be displayed on the screen, right? This line would be executed. So then this line would be executed. So one, don't worry about this line. So we are going to discuss what is this return and what it does exactly. So those things would be discussed later on. Don't worry. But what I want you to see here is like it is one line by line, right? From the top line, top statement here in the line 6 and then line 7 and line 8 and so on, right? So here only 3 lines or 3 statements, right? Those things will be executed, right? So that's why they are called, so this program has a regular flow. Regular flow means like one line, then the next line and so on. That's a regular flow of execution. In this case, like we consider how it is executed. The program is executed. C program we discussed up to now have regular flow. C language and many other languages provide mechanisms to handle alternative non-linear flow of program, right? So this, the regular flow means linear flow, right? Regular flow, or sometimes we call linear flow. Linear means it is like a line, right? Linear flow, right? So it has a linear flow. එන මේ විදිහට අපිට පෙන්වන්න පුළුවන් ඒ එක්සිකියුට් වෙන විදිහ. ලයින් එකක වගේ යන්නේ උඩේ ඉඳන් පල්ලෙහාට. Right? But C provides mechanisms to handle alternative non-linear flows. මේ ප්‍රෝග්‍රෑම් එක මෙහෙම ලීනියර් වෙන්න ඕනේ නැහැ පළවෙනි ලයින් එක. If you want to have an alternative flow, right? So if you want to jump into some other place, or if you want to go back to the previous statement, right? If we do that, right? Let's say we have if when known that, so we have a set of statements, right? So first, suppose we execute this one, and then we go to the next one, and then we go to the next one, right? So up to the this place, suppose it is linear. It is a linear. Then, if we want to go back to somewhere here, and if we want to, suppose it, or if you want to skip this one, the next, for example, here, this one. In that case, we jump. Or we skip, right? So in this case now, like, so these are alternatives, right? Not linear, right? So it goes like this, right? And then goes, and then like this, right? So these are not linear. So we can have non-linear execution of a program. So that's what we are going to learn in this control structures. So this flow controlling mechanisms are called flow control structures, and they specify the order in which computations are performed. Linear order එක වෙනස් කරන්න අපිට තියෙනවා විශේෂ structures. නැත්නම් විශේෂ mechanisms තියෙනවා. අපි ඒවට කියනවා flow control structures. Flow control කරන structure. So mainly C provides two styles of flow control. So one is branching and looping. So branching means, so we have branching, and we have looping. So branching means, branch, like so suppose this is the linear control structure, but in branching, right? So we have branches, right? At one point, we can go this way or that way. So sometimes there could be like multiple ways, right? And then, so we can, right? We can go this way, or this way, or this way. And then after that, it could be again linear or, right. So this is branch, right? Branch. At one point of the program, based on some conditions, we go this way, one of these way. Only one way, right? So program in one execution, it could go this way, right? In another execution, it could go in a different, right? Based on the condition that we checked here. Condition would be checked, right? This is called branching, right? So branching is basically if else conditions are used in branch, right? If else statements are used. Looping means, right? Like, so this is the regular flow. Looping means at one point, again based on a condition, right? It will repeat one part of code, right? Instead of going this way, it will come back to, or it will, so loop means something like this. There's a loop. Again and again, it will do some part of the program executed multiple times, right? Then, if this condition is false, so not satisfied, so it will go to the regular linear. But until that, one part would be executed multiple times. This is called loops. Loops are like for, while, and so on. In C, we mainly have for, while, and do while. For, while, do while. 3 types of loops. So mainly for flow control, in C language, C for flow control structures, so we have 2 types, branching and looping, right? So branching specifies what action to be taken, and looping states how many times a certain action to be repeated. Okay, so in the first set of slides, so we are going to discuss the branch. This week we are going to talk about branching, and maybe next week, so we are going to talk about looping. Any questions? Anything? Right. So if you have questions, anytime you can send them on chat, or you can unmute yourself and then just unmute your mic and just tell me the question. Right. So let's talk about branch. Using branching statement, the flow of the program is divided into two or more branches. And depending on a condition specified at the branching, only one of those paths are followed. Right. So if we draw just a flow diagram like this, so this is the starting of the program. So this is the end of the program, right? So at one point, the regular flow is broken, and so there's a condition check. The condition check. So based on that condition check, if that condition is true, right? If condition is true, we take this part. So this is conditional code, or the code related to this condition, right? Only if this condition is true, this part would be executed. Otherwise, this part would be skipped and go straight if condition is false. Right? Only one path would be taken. In this branching, only one path would be taken. මේ පාරවල් දෙකේම යන්න බෑ එකක විතරයි. So you have done this in your, like in general life, you have done that a lot, right? So like after your O-level results, so you could have selected different streams, right? So based on the condition at that situation, at that point, right? So, right. So you did, right, okay, so this is the starting point of your life, and then O-level, right? Right. So then you had multiple streams to be selected, right? So in O-level, like based on your O-level results and your preference, and then the advices of your parents, and then advices of your other like your elder generation, like uncle la, auntie la, ඊට පස්සේ මාමලා, බාප්පලා, හත්මුතු පරම්පරාවම කියන ඒවා අහලා මේ මෙතනින් select කරගන්න, right? Teachers, yeah, of course, teachers, and then sometimes your girlfriend or boyfriend. මේ අපි දෙන්නම මේ අපි ටෙක් කරමු, අපි දෙන්න එතකොට අපිට ක්ලාස් යන්න පුළුවන් එකට. මේ වගේ කියලා දැන් ඒ සියලුම දේ. So many conditions, and then friends, yes, අපාය සහයක යාළුවෝ, මේ හොඳ යාළුවෝ. So based on that, like lot of conditions, right? Lot of conditions. Right? So when I was in that stage, like when I was I passed my O-levels, and then I had only like I didn't have much like opinions from others, like because my father was a mathematics teacher. Like obviously they all knew that I would choose mathematics, right? So in my case, like I didn't like cutting and like working with some animals, and then I don't like that. Even then, today I don't like that. So then I choose maths, Right? Like we didn't have tech at the time. Like if I had, I would have selected that. But anyway, so I choose math. So likewise, like based on conditions, it could be just one condition or combination of conditions, right? You take just one part. You cannot take two or three, right? Then take තෝරගත්තොත් ඒ පාරේ යන්න. Then you will miss what are the things in the other parts, right? දැන් take තෝරගත්තොත් එහෙම එතකොට දැන් දැන් හිතමු දැන් ආර්ට්ස් තෝරගත්ත එක්කෙනෙක් දැන් සිංහලයේම කරලා මේ ඒ කට්ටිය අර නිකන් අර සාහිත්‍ය දේවල් ඉගෙනගෙන ඒවා මිස් වෙනවා. You have just one part, right? So this is the same in our programs, right? So at one point we create a condition. Let's see how to do that, and then based on that condition, if that condition is true, then only we can execute that. So otherwise we will skip that and we will go straight. Or if there are multiple branches like this, right? If the condition is satisfied in one way, it will go this way. If it is satisfied in this way, go this way. Right? It could be multiple, huh? It could be multiple, not just three. Like in most simplest, right? In the simplest way, right? Like it would be just one. Right? So otherwise, it will go this way. If true, go this way. False, go this way. Like this is the simplest one. So then we can have like three, or there are ways that we can facilitate more than 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Depending on the situation, depending on the requirement of the program, right? Right. So there are main categories of branching data structures. Like these kind of creating these kind of branches, there are several ways. If condition statements. So including if, else, else if, right? These are if condition statements. And then we have switch statements. Switch. This is the second way of doing that. And there's another way. So last week, like someone asked why we are not discussing miscellaneous operators. So here we are discussing the conditional operator. So we have conditional operator. It can be used to control the flow of the program. Conditional operator. So these are the three mechanisms that we have in C. Okay, right. So let's go one by one. First, we are going to discuss if statements, and then later on we will move to switch and then conditional. Right. So if condition statements, so basic if statement has if keyword. So we use if keyword. So this is a keyword in C and in many other languages. Keyword followed by a Boolean condition statement. Or here, let's say Boolean conditional expression, which is placed between a pair of opening and closing parentheses. Actually, it has to be not a statement, expression. Conditional expression. It has to be Boolean expression. So that means the expressions, so these conditions, right? So this is how we write it, right? So we use if keyword. Right. Remember, like it is all lowercase, right? Not if like this, huh? If. And then within parentheses, we give a condition or an expression. So we give an expression. So now you know that expression has a value. In this case, expression's value has to be Boolean. Boolean. That means true or false. But in the context of C, true means 1, false means 0. Right? So these expressions value would be 0 or 1. Right? So this value, if the value is 1, then this condition is true. If it is 0, the condition is false. So this is how we give. It could be any expression, right? It could be any expression like this, right? These are expressions, right? If I go back to our expression, right? Any legal combination of one or more explicit values, constants, variables, functions that represents a value, right? All these are expressions, right? So that it could be any expression, right? If, and then within parentheses, so we can have any different expressions. Right? You can just give a value, right? Like this. And then just you can give a variable. Right? I mean, variable expression, it's an expression. Right? So that condition statement is usually Boolean expression. Usually, right? Most commonly, it's a Boolean expression. That means the result value is true or false. However, any expression could be used since there is a Boolean value representation for every expression. If the value, like if you use any expression, if somehow the value is non-zero, we consider it as true. The value is 0, it is considered as false. For every expression, if the value is something like 0 or 0.0 or null, the Boolean value is false, and for any other non-zero value, the Boolean value is true. Right? For example, this one would be true. Obviously, this one is true. This one is false. This is null character, so it would be false. Right? Right. Okay. So the expression is true, then the statement or the block statement get executed. Otherwise, these statements are skipped. Okay. Right. So let's write a simple if condition. Right. Right. Okay. So no problem, right? No problem here, right? Um, right. So let's say, right? So I'm using, okay. Let's say int value. I'm going to get a variable, right? From using scanf function. If I'm using scanf function, so I'm going to use format specifier for integer, and then remember ampersand the variable name, sorry, value, the variable name here. You have to put an ampersand if you are using scan, right? Okay. So now I'm taking a value, right? And then let's say like නිකම්ම print කරමු value එක මොකද්ද අපි enter කරන value එක, the value that you have entered is yeah, so I'll print the value, the variable, right? I'll put a new line here, right? For the clarity, just for the clarity. Right. Right. So first I have to enter a value, right? So let's say 78. If I type 78 and enter, the value that you have entered is 78. Okay, so we don't need that. So let's say if I add printf enter an integer. Right? Integer. Enter an integer, right? 34. The value you have entered is 34. See? Right. So now what I'm going to do is, so let's say I want to check the value of this one, right? So if it is, now I'm going to add an if condition. Right? Value print right? Suppose if I want to check whether the value that I have entered is a positive number or negative number, right? So I can check this value, right? I can put an expression here to check whether it is positive or negative. If it is negative, right? If a value is less than 0, right? We can use less than the value is less than 0, right? Then, right, if within parentheses braces, and then I can write a statement. If the value is 1, let's say yes, let's say we print it is a negative let's say it's a so remember, right, if this one and then the statement does not end here, right? If it is a statement like we put our semicolons, but semicolon comes after the next step. This is where we put the semicolon. Right? All right, so see here. And then I put next line as well. Okay. So now let's run this program. Enter an integer. So let's say if I enter positive integer, right? So then the value you have entered is 56, right? So let's see how it works. This line is executed and then enter an integer. This line is executed, it would be displayed, and then it would be waiting for my input. So if I input something, then that value would be assigned to this variable. And then it will print the value. Right, it will print the value. And then, so this is an empty line, right? So then it will come to this. If the value, so that now in this case, I have entered 56, right? So now the value is 56, right? Value කියන එකේ තියෙන්නේ මේ variable එකේ තියෙන්නේ 56. Right now here it is 56. So tell me whether this condition is true or false. In this case, 1 or 0. Zero, false. Basically, it's false because the value of this variable value කියන variable එකේ value එක 56. So it is මෙතන 56 තියෙන එක බිඳුවට වඩා අඩුද? Is it less than 0? No, right? So with this operation, so these expressions output or the result is 0. Right? This is 0. False. If this is false, so then this line won't be executed. It will be skipped. මෙතන true වුණොත් තමයි මේක execute කරන්නේ. එහෙම නැත්නම් මේක execute කරන්න it will skip. If this condition is true, then only the next line would be executed. Otherwise, it will be skipped. So in this case, this is false, so this line would be skipped. That's why I got only these two lines. But if I enter, someone asking about the braces. Yes, I will come to that. I'll come to that. Let's say if I enter -12, right? Now, see, the value you have entered is -12. It is a negative value. Right? So now it is -12. It is less than 0. So this is true, or 1. This expression is 1. So then that means it is true. Now we execute this. Right. Suppose if I want to add 2 lines, multiple lines, let's say I want to print another line. It's a negative value. Right. It is, let's say, so let's say enter a positive integer. මුලින්ම කියනවා දැන් මේ positive integer එකක් enter කරන්න. හරි? එතකොට එයා enter කරපු එක පෙන්නනවා if මෙහෙමනම් it is a negative value, please enter positive value. එවදාම් මේ lines දෙකක් දැන් මේක true වුණොත් මට මේ lines දෙකක් print කරන්න. Right? So now let's see. So -12, right? -12 අපි enter කරොත් the value you have entered is -12. It is a negative value. Please enter positive value. So it is skipped. Right. So let's say if I enter positive value 78, right? So then the value you have entered is 78. Please enter positive value. Right? So this one would be executed. Even this is false, I am expecting both of these 2 lines to be executed, but only, right? even this is false, right? Even this is false. If it is false, right? If this is false, I don't want both of these lines to be executed. Right? Make it better. False now, මේ lines දෙකම මට execute කරන්න අවශ්‍ය නැහැ. I don't need these two lines. But the second line is executed. The reason is, right? If condition can handle just one expression. Sorry, one statement. Right? Only handle one statement. If we need our if statements to handle multiple statements, we should use a block, right? So now it will work. So we cannot, we don't need to use indentation, like, so we can write it as in the same line as this if statement. But for the clarity, we use a tab. It is just for the clarity to make it more understandable, right? It is now it is clear. So that's the thing. Right? So you can use a block using braces, opening brace, closing. This is a block. So we call this in this case we can call it the if block. If කියන එකේ block එක. If එකට අයිති මේ. If එකේ situation එක අනුව මේ දෙකම මේ block එකම execute වෙනවා හරි නොවෙනවා. Based on the condition, all block is executed or not, right? So even if it is just one statement, you can use a block, right? No problem. I recommend you to use a block instead of just without using braces. Right. I recommend you to use, all right, braces. You can එක line එකක් තියනවා නම් ඒකට මේ block එකක් පාවිච්චි නොකරත් කමක් නැහැනේ. හැබැයි මම ඔකටට කියන්නේ recommend කරන්නේ block එකක් පාවිච්චි කරන්න හැම වෙලාවෙම. All the times use a block. Because suppose if you have just one statement here, but later on if you want to, right? So let's say like if you don't use that, if you want to add another statement, right? You'd add the statement and then sometimes you may forget to add a block, right? So that's why I'm telling you, like if it is in a block, already in a block, right? We can add multiple lines, no problem, right? Right. So that would be how that's a simple way of using if statements. Right. As I have explained here, like in this case, in this context, so this is the expression that we have to use. But any expression can be used. For example, like this, right? Right. So any expression can be used here. Any variable, so here, any variable, right? Variable assignment, whatever. Like, even this is not very meaningful, but it can be used, right? So any condition can be used. Any condition, any expression can be used. Okay. If statement is followed by a single line statement or block of statements, the block is indicated by a pair of braces, right? Like this, or a block. Only if the condition is true, the following statement or the block of the statement are executed. In a case, the condition is false, the following statement or the following or the block of statements are skipped and jump into the subsequent step. If this is true, this one would be executed. If this is true, this block would be executed. Otherwise, it will jump, it will skip this set of these statements or the block, and it will go to the subsequent statements. ඊට පස්සේ තියෙන lines වලට ගිහිල්ලා execute කරනවා. Right? So this is one example that I have given. Similar to the one, right? Enter a negative or positive integer, right? Scanf, right? If the value is 0, less than 0, the value is less than 0, that means minus, value is assigned, right? Okay, so let's enter a positive integer, right? We don't need this one. The value is 0, right? Absolute values. Absolute value is value, right? So here what we are going to do is value is assigned with value multiplied by -1. The value that I have entered, if it is a negative number, we are going to multiply that value by minus. -12 නම් minus එකෙන් වැඩි කරාම +12 වෙනවා. කියන්නේ value එක minus නම් අපි ඒක plus කරන්න තමයි මේ වැඩේ කරන්නේ. Then we assign, right? If the value is minus, we are going to convert it into positive, right? By multiplying with minus. So then we assign that value to the variable value itself, right? එහෙම කරලා ආපහු මේකටම assign. So we can write it, right? In the same thing, we can write it as this, right? Instead of this, we can write multiply and assign minus. Can we උඩ තියෙන එකමයි මේ යට තියෙන, right? we learned this in operators. When we talk about operators, so there's an operator, multiply and assign. The meaning of that is this, the same. Right? So this is the program, like this is how you write a program to find the absolute value of a given value. Absolute value means, right? Absolute value means if it is a positive value, like let's say if I enter 12, the absolute value is 12. If I enter minus 12, absolute value would be 12. If I enter minus 78, absolute value would be 78. If I enter 50, absolute value would be 50. So let's say enter positive, like positive කියලා මෙතන කියන්න ඕනේ, enter an integer. So let's say if I enter minus 90, the absolute value is 90. Enter, I entered minus 90. The absolute value is 90. So this is the program, right, to find the absolute value of a given integer. In that case, we use if condition. Right. Now, I'm going to introduce. So if you have any questions, you can ask, right? If you have any questions, you can ask. In the meanwhile, like let's go to the else condition, right? So here, there are just one part, right? I told you like if, right, any condition here, then if it is true, we have a block of code. If statement code. Otherwise, we go this way. Suppose if we have a situation where if this is true, we have to do something. And then if it is false, right? If it is false, we have to do something else. If it is true, we have to do this, right? Let's say this is true code. If it is true. If it is false, right? So we have to do something else. If it is false, we have to do something else. Yeah, false. In our previous case, we didn't have anything, right? But let's say in our program, if So let's say, I'm going to change this program, marks, right? Enter your marks. Let's say I ask you to enter your marks, right? Here, marks. So, no. If marks are less than 35, right? So then let's say you have let's say like greater than or equal to 35. This pahari ita වැඩි නම් හරි congratulations, you passed the exam. එම් කියන්න ඕන කියලා print කරන්න දෙයක් නැහැ. එහෙම නැත්තම්, right? If this is false, I want to print something else. In that case, we can use else keyword. Else, only else. And then else. No parentheses, no condition. Because if this is true, do this. Otherwise, if it is false, right, we don't have to mention anything, right? එහෙම නැත්තම් මේක නෙවෙයි නම්, if this is not true, then do this, right? Try next. So let's say like try next time. Right. So let's say this program, if I enter my marks, right, like suppose I got 55 marks. Congratulations, you have passed the exam, right? So if I enter low marks like 22, try next time, right? So here only this one or this one would be printed based on the value. So this one is greater than or equal 35, or same thing can be done with 34. 34 greater than 34. මෙහෙම දැම්මත් හරියට same. Right. Okay. So this is like this, right? False නම් මේක කරන්න. True නම් මේක කරන්න, false නම්. Right. Suppose if we want more than 2 branches, right? If there's a condition, then we have to do something, right? Otherwise, if there's a condition, we have to do something else. Otherwise, we have to do something else, like multiple. If you want to add multiple branch, then we have something else, right? So we have if, else, right? Right? We have something called else if. Else if, and we can give another condition. Right? So in this case, we can add multiple else if conditions. Right? So likewise. else if කියන එකෙන් අපිට දාන්න පුළුවන් ගොඩක්. Right? So that's the next one. Right? So this is the example that I have given for if else, right? And then if else if else condition statement. In case many parallel branches are needed in program execution, C provide else if statements. Following an if block instead of else block, one or more else if blocks could be used to specify several branches. Right? So I haven't had any statement here, expression here. For example, like let's say, so we have another 2 minutes or so, right? Like I'll be quick here, right? The rest of these would be discussed on Friday with practicals, right? In our practical session. Let's say if greater than or equal to 85. 85ට වඩා වැඩි නම් you have got A plus. A plus එකක් තියෙනවා කියලා කිව්වා. Right? Else if marks are between right? Marks are greater than or equal to 80. And marks are 80ට වඩා වැඩි, හැබැයි 85ට වඩා අඩු. Less than 85. So you can put it the other way around as well. Less than and. So here, so this is Boolean and, right? Double ampersand Boolean, it's Boolean. This one and this one, both has to be true. Then only this full expression would be true. 85ට වඩා අඩු වෙන්නත් ඕනේ, 80ට වඩා වැඩි වෙන්නත්. ඒ දෙක අතර කියලා අපි කියන්නේ මේ. In between two values, right? So this is how we write it in C. Then you got A. So likewise, so we can write all the right. The next one would be 80 and 75. A minus. So likewise, A minus. So likewise, you can write multiple else if conditions. Right, so that's all we have today. And then Next one time. So we'll talk about the rest and the switch statements on Friday. Right. So that's all. Any quick questions? So if you don't have any questions, so thank you and see you on Friday, 10:15. Right. Right. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.